The running game is very important. It will be important to the New Orleans Saints because it can't over rely on its young quarterbacks because they simply don't know enough to carry the team at this time. Spencer did pick up some good experience from being 0-6. And hey, man, how does he look with a healthier unit in front of him? He probably get a couple of wins at least, right? So anyway, shout out to Anola.com. Saints have devoted resources to their offensive tackles. Can this be an elite group? A year ago, it seemed like the Saints were in dire straits here, right? Dealing with the offensive line and what could go on later. But now the Saints might actually be positioned well at the position as long as a couple of things work in their favor. Taliese Fuaga is coming off a strong rookie season, during which he played an unfamiliar position at left tackle. Rather than keep him there, the Saints poised to shift Fuaga to the right side, the position he played his entire career at Oregon State. Make room for number 9th pick, Kelvin Banks Jr. at the left tackle position, the blindside tackle. This setup, this is not set in stone, but it indeed is probably more than likely will be set in stone going forward. But the depth chart, as you can see, according to the experience there with Taliese Fuaga, Kelvin Banks Jr., Landon Young, Josh Ball, Josiah Raheem, Barry Wesley, and Easton Kilty. These are big guys. 6'6", Fuaga, 320 plus. Kelvin Banks, 6'5", 315. Landon Young, 6'7", 320. Josh Ball, 6'8", 325. Josiah Raheem, 6'6", 320. Barry Wesley, 6'7", 310. And Easton Kilty, 6'6", 307. Big guys. All these guys. Shortest guy there is 6'5", Kelvin Banks Jr. That's crazy. Josh Ball, 6'8". So they got size, but you got to have some kind of athleticism if you're going to be on that tackle on that end because you're going against those speedy edge rushers, right? Now, the best case, this is kind of obvious. The Saints have devoted a top 15 picks in consecutive years to the tackles. If both of them hit, means the Saints could be on their way to having one of the NFL's premier offensive tackle tandems. I'm going to put it out there already. I think with good health, Kelvin Banks Jr., if you watch film on Kelvin Banks, he's an awesome player. He's smart, he's strong, he's fast, he's fundamental. Good pickup by the Saints. Taliese Fuaga, you already seen what he did at one of the more difficult positions in football, which is the blind side tackle, a position he didn't even play. Played mostly on the right side. He went there, dominated. Imagine what he looks like in year 2 on the right side, his natural position. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be phenomenal. So I'm looking really always great to have two of those bookends. They kind of, set that line. They're a long way from that at the moment, but Banks has obviously yet to play a down, and he wasn't viewed as a slam dunk offensive tackle prospect. Some preferred him as a guard. That is true. That during the draft, and shout out to KT because me and him talked about Kelvin Banks Jr. He had a lot of positive things to say about Kelvin, but I was like, people kept trying to push Kelvin to the guard position, and I was like, nah, I can see him at tackle, but you can't flip him to guard if you need him to be. But he is a beast at the tackle position. He did very well when he was with the Texas Longhorns in college. Still, the Saints are making the right type of gamble at the position. Each of the 8 highest paid tackles in the NFL were selected in the first round. Almost all of them inside of the top 15 picks. Only 2 AP all-pro tackles in the last 5 seasons were drafted outside of the first round. That's David Bakhtiari and Jordan Mulata. Both of those guys. So that's pretty interesting. Taking a first-round tackle is no guarantee to success, but if you're going to find a good one, that is more often than not where they come from. Since Tali had already shown that he can offer competent play at minimum, Banks is the key. It'll be foolish to expect Banks to step in and play at a top 10 level immediately. But if he can offer something similar to what Tali did last year, roughly a top 20 player at left tackle, that would be a reason to celebrate because it would mean that the Saints drafted a foundational player at a premium position. That becomes especially meaningful if Taliese Fuaga's transition to the right side brings more out of him. He enjoyed one of the best seasons of a rookie tackle last year while playing a new position. On the right side, he will be back to where he played at Oregon State, and it is reasonable to expect a jump in his play. Oh, he's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be phenomenal. Good offensive line play and specifically good tackle play be a floor setter for an NFL offense. If the Saints can get the best versions out of Tali and Kelvin Banks Jr. This year, their chances of successfully implementing what Kellen Moore wants to do on offense will go up. Now, the worst case scenario, because you got to look at both sides, right, is while it is true that the top half of the first round is generally where the better offensive tackles are found, that doesn't mean the top 15 picks don't bust. It's less common, but it does happen. So that's good realism there. If for whatever reason Banks doesn't pan out, man, either at tackle or guard, we've seen this before with Trevor Penning, haven't we found? So it ain't like we haven't seen somebody, right? That if Kelvin Banks Jr. and listen, I think Kelvin pans out. I think he pans out. I really do. Because I think the Saints team this year will be more run centric. They're going to be a more run centric team. They're going to run the ball, and that usually benefits big offensive linemen. But they don't have to move around. Even and Kelvin Banks have that athleticism, just like Tyler. He got a mean temperament, mean streak, very intelligent as well. When you have a run-centric offense on your hand, them big linemen love that. They don't have to go and chase nobody down. They just put their hands on those guys in front of them and just move them as meanly and as inconveniently as they can out of their damn way. So, and if Kelvin Banks doesn't work out, there's still a Trevor Penning approach, right? If you don't succeed at left tackle, try at right tackle. If you don't succeed at right tackle, try left guard. So I mean, at some point, the Saints are trying to find a place for Trevor Penning to reside, but I don't think that happens with Kelvin Banks. I think he'll do fine at the tackle position, man. But you got to humor, the opposite side, to be quite honest with you, right? You got to kind of, look at that. But the New Orleans needs Banks to hit for a lot of reasons related to its own field product, but also it needs a win from a premier pick after a run of muddling draft success. Well, that's because you took a ton of well, I ain't gonna say a ton, but it was guys that have not produced. Whether it's Peyton Turner, first round draft pick, bust. Davenport, bust. I can't say that about Isaiah Foskey. He's a second round guy. But when you get high, the ones and the twos, when you go that high, you're losing or you're not making the playoffs, and you get an opportunity to get a pick as a top 15 pick or a pick that's in that area between 10 and 15, you got to hit on it, right? You got to hit on it, because what it does do is you get an opportunity to get a really good player there that you add whatever else you got going on. And then this should help speed you back up to get back into being a top 10 or top 12 team in the NFL. That's what it's for. If you're not hitting on these players, these guys are not producing, and you got first round draft picks that's getting out produced by undrafted guys, that's an indictment on your drafting ability, because we pick up on the Carl Granderson, and Carl Granderson was better than Peyton Turner and Davenport mixed together. And he was an undrafted guy. He didn't even get drafted. And he worked up from the mud, and Carl Granderson was arguably, I ain't gonna say arguably, he was last year your best defensive end. Carl Granderson, undrafted. So yes, and not only that, but Carl outplayed Isaiah Foskey, the slow man. I say snowman, but it's the slow man. Hopefully we can see something different. But those guys, you get undrafted guys, that are outplaying the drafted guys. And that's an indictment on your ability. We got to, at least, you might not be able to hit on all three. Like, you draft well, you sign free agents well, and then you hit the undrafted market. At some point in time, recently, the Saints wasn't doing a good job in the free agency market. It wasn't hitting on all their draft picks, but they were killing it in the undrafted side of things. We got to at least get 2 of the 3 right? We got to get at least 2 of the 3 right. If we 3 for 3, then bam, you got a bowl coming to you. Maybe a couple of them, maybe a string of bowls. If you hitting in all 3 of those that I mentioned, but you got to at least be hitting for at least 2 out of the 3. You can't be 1 for 3. You're missing in free agency. You're missing in the draft, but you're killing it in the undrafted game. You got to get at least, get 2 of the 3 at least. My goodness. Anyway, let's get back to this. There's some risk of Fuaga taking a step back in 2025. You got to talk about it, because it happens from time to time with that dreaded second year slump, right? The sophomore slump. Him switching positions to go back. He might be actually immune to that. I ain't say immune to it, but he's moving to a position of familiarity. It's usually, how fast does he pick up? The first year, what Tali did was unbelievable, because you don't see that often when you get a guy that played play blindside tackle, and then he comes and said, "Listen, we're gonna put you on the opposite side." Man went over there and was good. He was good, right? He was excellent over there. And as you know, and then now you want him to move from the blindside position that he dominated back to his college position that he came up to become a number one pick for you. So it switches a bit, but I'm saying Tyler should be all right. He should be all right. Tyler is a smart dude, man, and that's things I like about these players. Not only are they big guys that are physical and got mean streaks, they ain't no punks. You know, you ain't gonna push them over, and then they have this milk toast mentality. All this kind of stuff that we've seen from those dreaded backups last year. That's not the case. When you're dealing with a guy like Tyler and Kelvin Banks Jr., them guys have mean streaks in them. You know, these guys, they won't allow to be dominated. Their mentality is gain every ground that we can get. Plus, these are guys that move very well. They knock this guy down, and then they fast enough to get to the second level to help, get to that linebacker to free up that running back. So we'll see how it all goes. But my expectations is high for Taliese Fuaga. So anyway, New Orleans was able to minimize the offensive line's shortcomings last season by combining their heavy zone run scheme with a steady diet of play action plays and bootlegs. Stuff that will not be prevalent under Moore. The Saints also had Derek Carr, who played a bigger role than he got credit for in minimizing the rush. I don't know what he's talking about on that one. But from what I see based on my analysis and watching and doing the games and my eyes and all this kind of old stuff, the Saints dominated their running attack the first two games of the season. Somewhat of the third game, we know we lost McCoy in the series. He went down. They were not prepared to lose Eric McCoy, regardless of what they say. They didn't even have a steady backup center. They had to shuffle the line. That's an indication that you didn't have a backup center that can roll right in and keep the continuity. Everybody stay at their positions. The tackles stay, the guards stay, and then you just move one center out, he get hurt, we plug the backup center in there. They didn't even have that. They had to shuffle Lucas Patrick from the guard to the center position. That's not a plan. You don't want to move them guys around like that. You want to keep everything the same. That's what I was talking about in the broadcast earlier about leadership, about understanding and that you have to be able to prepare yourself for losing anybody, no matter who it is. And you got to have the philosophy, because if we have a plan to run the ball and the guy gets hurt and one guy stops the team from winning, like one offensive lineman get hurt, then we got a problem, because it's a team sport. We got to, regardless of what happened, we cannot allow for loss of identity. We cannot allow us to not be able to be a dominant running team when we're dealing with quarterback play. And last year's quarterback play with Derek Carr was up and down at best. He was injured in games. He was never fully healthy. His play was up and down. When he got pressure in his face, he was very scared. He didn't trust his line, like talking about. His accuracy was hit or miss at times. Don't get me wrong. You go in there and throw whip run on, put a ball on a rope, a soap on a rope pass where he'll line it down there and come back out and throw a dart in the ground. They boy out there planting football seeds, throwing them in the ground. So, he wasn't all that. But in the end, when you coming into this system and what he got going on, you better believe they're going to run it. Heavy running scheme with a steady diet of play action passes and bootlegs. Yeah. But remember, you ain't get what steady diet of play action plays. You got to run the ball, get into the play action. Oh my goodness. Like, man, what we talking about here? You got to run the ball to get into the play action. Let's just keep it all the way funky. You got to run the ball to get into the play action. And we see the Saints play action without running the ball. That is not going to help you. It don't work, because you got to create doubt in the mind of the defense of what they're doing. And you got to run it so you can set it up. Running play action plays without establishing the run is not a good thing. What's going to end up happening is, as soon as that quarterback play action to his running back, that damn defender on that other side, that extra linebacker coming, as soon as that guy turned his head, that goddamn guy on his back. Or better yet, he on his back. Yeah, we don't want to do that. So, it is what it is. But there's zero chance. And let's get back to it. Yeah, that was setting up the play action. Bro, setting the play action up, running. It ain't going to work. It's not going to work right, fam. You cannot do that. You cannot set up and do play action without setting up the run first, because you're not creating any doubt in their idea, in their heads of what you're going to do. You're going to sit on that line, and the moment that QB turns around, that guy gonna knock the piss out of him. That's just how it go. And poor Derek Carr, he was scared from the moment go. I remember when we was in the Chief game, we was rolling really good. And then next thing you know, he had a blitzer. The guy was like at least what 4 or 5 steps from getting from him. And this ball threw the ball up to an interception. What? That changed the whole complexion of the game. They were actually doing decent vibe-wise moving the ball. After that, that shit went away quick. But that's what happened. You got to have a quarterback with some heart. He can't be a scary punk out there running around. He got to be able to dig in, understand what's going on, see what's, and have the optics and viewing everything, looking at the field, not just going through the motions and looking up and pretending to look. You got to look up and see where these guys are blitzing from, so that you can switch the play to work against them. That's the reason why the quarterback get under the center and then lift up his damn head and looks from center to left to right to find out where could he see where the blitz is coming from, what kind of defense are they running, this type of stuff. A thinking quarterback, and if he sees something that he can switch to that can benefit them to move the ball, like if they're running the ball and you see the guys crouching up, because they'll show you them defenders ain't that disciplined. They'll be crouching up to the line and all this kind of stuff. You got to be able to read that. So ain't no if they're showing they about to stack the box, ain't no reason for you to be trying to run the ball into a stacked box. Ain't no need for you to be trying to do that. You can option, opt out of that. Opt out. Hit the escape button and switch to a pass. And we're gonna get more of that this year because it's smart quarterback play that we're gonna get from these young guys. Man, you watch and see. Gonna take a little bit, but I'm really enthused by it. There's a 9-0 chance that Fuaga is better fit for Kubiak's scheme than he is for Moore, and it shows in his play. Both Fuaga and Banks play well. Depth is a concern. Been saying this for a while. The Saints don't have a lot of experience behind their presumptive starting tackles. Landon Young, I don't have no faith in Landon Young, no disrespect, but it's best used as a stopgap. Absolutely, I agree upon that. Off-season signing, Josh Ball hasn't played since 2022. Oh, Lord. And no other true tackle on the roster has played a snap in the NFL. Talked about that. Why is that an issue of concern? Because we dealt with this last year. We need to have guys that not just regular vet, just go sign a veteran, all this kind of stuff. No, let's sign a good backup, a good veteran, at least at the blind side tackle position that can play both tackle spot. A good vet. He's at this point in time signing a good veteran that can just play. If something was to happen, you can kind of do your thing right there, So he kind of helps out in that concern. Like, he's a veteran. He played the tackle position, the blindside tackle position. He could play the opposite tackle position. If something was to go wrong with our young guys, he could pop up in there and play for a few games until our guys get back, that sort of thing. But that's what the problem I was saying about the offensive line. We have not gotten away from that. I do watch footage on Easton Kilty. I've watched some stuff on Josiah Raheem. Very interesting, but these guys are inexperienced. You need a good backup offensive lineman tackle that can play. Now, the Saints do have a guard, interiorly speaking, and Dylan Runnels, and whoever wins the job between Penning and Runnels, gonna start, and obviously the loser will be the backup. So that will probably serve as, probably your best backup right there on the guards. But as far as the tackles are concerned, you're going to want to go and look at. Now, we know, we got a rumor out there about the guy played for the Cowboys. But if the Saints should be looking at signing at least 3 players to go into camp and open up some spots for some of these guys. Veteran cornerback, a veteran offensive tackle, maybe a couple of them to create a competition with the young guys, and another big wide receiver to kind of get in the mix there. Those will be 3 really good things that I like to see. But if they don't do anything else, you need depth at the backup offensive line. So his prediction in 10 words: Banks struggles early but closes strong in a rookie season. I don't see how he struggles if Kellen Moore's system is based upon running the ball. I don't see how Kelvin Banks Jr. will struggle. He'll have his few things because he might forget a play here or there. You see what I'm saying? All the rookies do that. But at the same time, that blindside tackle position ain't no punk. That blindside tackle position is based upon him, watching the quarterback's blindside. And that we got young players there. We don't need them getting knocked out of here. So they're entrusting Kelvin Banks Jr. with a big job. Can he handle it? I think so, especially if Kellen Moore and his staff is planning on running the football like we anticipate them to be doing. I think that will be pretty cool.